testing, true odds predictive analysis, and pace projection. With innovative analytics powered by data from Equibase, it will change the way you follow horse racing and take your game to the next level. RaceLens, bringing clarity to handicapping. Learn more at equibase.com/racelens.
Garbage time. That phrase never sounded quite right, because no part of football is meaningless. So cherish every 2 minutes of the NFL, not just the ones you're warned about. Cherish the spreads to cover, overs to hit, and chances to live bet from the first down to the final whistle. So don't just watch football this season, cherish it.
Bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus a profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
DeMarchelier offers breeders a rare opportunity as the only son of Dubawi standing in Kentucky. Dubawi, one of the world's most celebrated stallions, is now a sire of sires. This son of Dubawi brings one of the world's most potent bloodlines to America. Now his first runners are hitting the track. DeMarchelier, standing at Claiborne Farm.
Qatar Racing are proud to be the official title partner of the $2 million Breeders' Cup Sprint for the 3rd year running, reinforcing their commitment to promote the best racing in the world to new and growing audiences. Maker's Mark wishes you luck today and invites you to try a Gold Rush made with Maker's Mark bourbon and a local California honey. At Maker's Mark, we make our bourbon carefully. Please enjoy it that way. As the official partner and timekeeper of the Breeders' Cup World Championships, Swiss watch brand Longines is proud to present the Longines Prize for Elegance. In keeping with the brand's motto, "Elegance is an attitude," the fashion contest awards the most elegant lady and gent. The official watch of the event is the Mini Dolce Vita. With its discreet profile, classic styling, and aesthetic variations that are at once timely and timeless, it is a masterpiece that exquisitely expresses in equal parts Longines quiet luxury and contemporary elegance. FanDuel is proud to be the official wagering partner of the Breeders' Cup and sponsor of the FanDuel Breeders' Cup Mile, presented by the PDJF. Watch racing year-round on FanDuel TV and wager on all the races with FanDuel Racing. Make every moment more with FanDuel.
The $1 million Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint produced the biggest upset on last year's Breeders' Cup card. 42-1 long shot Caravel took the fight to the boys from the start and never looked back. The first ever turf sprint on the Breeders' Cup card was contested at Santa Anita in 2008, and it produced a 36-1 shocker in Desert Code. In 2012, Misdirection carried jockey Mike Smith to the first of back-to-back wins in this race for trainer Mike Pipey. 6 years later, Stormy Liberal and trainer Peter Miller matched that feat. This is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint.
And we're just 24 minutes away from the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, and this year it'll be going that 5-furlong distance. Yes, we have the great memories of Misdirection down the hillside turf course, but this year we're keeping it short, sweet, and to the point.
Thankfully.
For you.
Thankfully, because it gives Living the Dream a great shot.
I agree. I don't mind it being at the flat 5. I know that one of the most beautiful things about Santa Anita is our unique down the hill turf, but I also feel like it lends itself to milers running, and this way we're getting a true sprint. Who's the flat out fastest?
And a foot race between us two, and going with him. At any rate, Jess Stafford joining us for some insight. Jess, what you got?
Horse 5, Living the Dream. He's got the gate speed. He'll be quick round the bends. He's our fastest horse in Europe, and he can do it for the Adam West team.
My pick here is going to be the number 10, Motorious, one of 3 for Phil D'Amato. I think looking at the 5/8 distance is going to be tricky for some. He is a true closer, but I think the pace setup is going to be perfect for him.
I'm going with Caravel here, 5-1, Brad Cox Barn. One of the early leaders should push for that lead and hopefully ends up back in the winner's circle this time.
Did you guys take notes? You right? I got that. Well,
I was so fast.
It was very quick. It's a turf sprint. I mean, we got to get with the theme of the race now. We're going to be going quickly. Let's take a look at the field with the current odds as we're 22 minutes out. Horses are in the saddling paddock getting ready for this affair, and it is Motorious, the local flavor, who's getting the early attention, Rishi.
Yes, Motorious, I can understand why. Looking at some of the best form in the race from the stateside horses. Funny enough, looking at the pedigrees, I thought this is one that I was quite attracted to, considering the fact that it's by a Mahara out of a Pastoral Pursuits mare. And the most recent run, obviously very good in that grade 3 at Del Mar. There's a lot to like about Motorious. Sorry.
No, but especially the way he wins this from off the pace.
Well, I'm wondering, that's what I was just going to ask you guys. I mean, do you think that Living the Dream would be able to get away from him, dropping back in trip on this track?
Would he? Yes. Will he? We shall see. That's the real question, right? Because the thing with a 5 furlong turf sprint, by very definition, there's going to be a lot of speed in it. I actually feel like for a Breeders' Cup turf sprint, Michelle, there isn't as much speed as I expected.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When you said there's going to be a lot of speed in here, I think the one speed is Living the Dream. We have fast horses in California. He shaded 21 at Keeneland. I think that their turf course is a little deeper than our turf course is here. I mean, he could easily go 20 and 1 here. You know what I mean? He's going to go fast.
Well, you speak of Living the Dream and you talk about Keeneland. Let's go back to York. And this is the Nunthorpe Stakes, Rishi. What exactly underwent here in this 4-year-old gelding's career?
Well, if you look over to the left, the horse with the noseband, that's Big Evs, who won the juvenile turf sprint yesterday. Living the Dream, all the while through this race, even to this point, I'm thinking, well, he's going to come back to them, because nothing in Living the Dream's form to this point had ever shown that he could do this to Highfield Princess, who was favourite for the sprint, or one of the favourites for the sprint last year, Brad Sell, who was due to run. He's the horse in the red colours with the white face to the outside. But Living the Dream never came back to them, and in the end, he's a cosy enough winner over that 5 furlong distance. And interestingly enough, when I spoke to Adam West, his trainer, this week, and I asked him about what's been the key to Living the Dream's progression from that race to now, he was suggesting it's nothing to do with the horse, who he thinks has always been really fast. He thinks it's the tracks that he's run on. So York really suited him because it's a flat, fast 5 furlongs. Obviously, Keeneland, he was pretty good going around the bend, then just tied up over the distance. But he felt that this trip here at Santa Anita, and in fairness, even before he won the Nunthorpe, the Breeders' Cup was in their thoughts. They were thinking about the track Santa Anita being the suitable sort of conditions for Living the Dream, regardless of what happened in the Nunthorpe.
Yeah, well, the Breeders' Cup was an afterthought for Idiomatic, and we saw how that turned out. So it doesn't really matter what the great plans are. Let's start talking about how you can get down in the action. We still have plenty of horse racing to wager on today. And for new customers, you can bet the Breeders' Cup with a no-sweat win bet up to $200 on FanDuel Racing. That's right. Up to $200 back if you don't win your first single horse win bet. Just place your first win bet on a single horse in any racetrack. Maybe Santa Anita this afternoon, seems like a good one. And get up to $200 back as a racing bonus if you don't win. Go to FanDuel Racing for details. And for those of you with an account already, we're offering you this win insurance. That's right. With FanDuel Racing, get WinBet insurance on all races at Santa Anita today, Saturday, November 4th, which is coincidentally the Breeders' Cup. Get your first WinBet back up to $10 as a racing credit if you finish second or third. Go to FanDuel Racing for details as we go to FanDuel TV studios with Dubsy, as he's going to detail how to win this race with a wager.
Yeah, it's a fantastic race to be jumping into, Mike. A lot of different ways to close out the card here on the multi-race wagering side of things, the daily double and the pick 3. Top selections here. Biggest market mover is Motorious. Was 5-1 on the morning line. Starts to firm up in the market. Currently sits at 5-2 plus 250 and a really good chance coming back here. Speaking of coming back, I'm going to go with Caravel to run it back. Won this race last year in the midst of a nice little 5-race win streak. The last 2 lines, maybe that scares the punters off, but you put a line through those last starts. The ground, quick course out there this afternoon. Caravel should eat it up at 9-2 plus 450. That is where the price lays for me coming up here in the turf sprint. 18 minutes to get those tickets in at the FanDuel Sportsbook, FanDuel Racing. So let's get back out there to Jess Stafford.
Adam West saddles Live in the Dream coming up, and I must imagine this is pretty much a career-defining moment for you and your team.
Well, I hope not. I hope I get a second chance. No, it's pretty big. It's pretty important. This is just amazing, the whole thing. I'm trying to play it down and just enjoy it, but it's hard to. This is huge.
And the horse you got, so important about the prep in. That's what you said. How pleased that with what you've done to get him to this point. How important was Keeneland?
Well, that was the plan. If we went to the Abbey, we could have run well. Form says we probably could have beaten Highfield Princess on a good draw, but it wouldn't have done him any favours because he hasn't had the experience with the bell, hasn't flown over here, things like that. So, we weren't sure what ground we were going to get as well. Whereas in Keenan we got lovely ground, and it's similar here. So he's had the experience, and hopefully that plays well.
Well, the work is all done. He looks fantastic. So all the best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you very much, Jess, as they are saddled up for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We'll have a post-parade for you shortly. I was just going to let you guys go at something. Let's talk about Arzac here.
I want to talk about the 9.
No, I was sorry for the pregnant pause. I've only been on there for 12 hours today. We're going to go back in time to a time when Arzac looked dominant, and that was the Woodford Stakes. Let's take a look at this one as we go to the Keeneland Racecourse back in the early part, opening weekend, Fall Stars weekend in October. Joel Rosario up this day, and this was quite the turn of foot he showed late.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fact that obviously he enjoyed a sharp pace early on and was able to come through at the end of that race over 5.5 at Keeneland. Obviously, Living the Dream is tiring late on. I'm pretty certain, you guys will know more than me, but it'll be a different test today. He won't be able to have that length of room or that amount of room, and perhaps with Living the Dream out in front, won't be able to reel him in as easily.
One thing I'm going to say, though, is we have a horse named Beer Can Man who drew in off the Alsos, and he's a pretty good meter stick for horses that are turf sprinting. He's traveled all around the country doing this. He doesn't win a lot, but he runs right there, and he was beaten by Arzac. He was also beaten by Live in the Dream. So he's a pretty fair barometer of what level Arzac should be at.
Now, Beer Can Man was in that Green Flash, finishing third. He was in that Woodford we showed you, finishing third. He is a little bit of a price here today at 24-1, like you said, off the AE. There's a look at the 7, No Balls, however you want to say it. Right now, though, let's check in once again with Jess Stafford.
Ryan Moore, you've got Aesop Stables. We can see him going past us now. I think that third last time set him up really nicely for a race like this. Were you impressed with how well he stayed on that day?
Yeah, he's good run the last day, and it's a tough race, and drawn a little bit wide, but hopefully he run well.
And just want to say a big congratulations that ride on Augusta Road, and what a thrill that must have given you.
No, it's great that the horse could come prove how good he is over here.
Well done, and good luck for this last one.
Thank you.
I'm here with Lewis. We're getting ready. Last couple races of the day. But how have you been doing so far? How's the weekend been at Breeders' Cup?
The weekend's been great, and that's the most important thing. How have I been doing? Not so good, but that's fine. That's fine. We're about to turn it around. We got a few more races.
Exactly. We got a couple races left, so still a couple opportunities to make some money. All right, looking into this next race, who are you thinking about? Who are you liking?
I'm putting all my money on Aesop's Fable, number 8, Aidan O'Brien horse, turf track. Good Irish horse. I think it's going to win.
I like that. Aidan O'Brien, 43% when he brings horses to North America.
Absolutely. And I've won money on him before, so I'm fingers crossed.
Right, fingers crossed for sure.
Good. I'm feeling good.
That's what we like to hear. Well, hopefully the last couple races treat you well. Thanks for talking to me, Lewis.
Thank you very much.
All right, Aesop's Fables. It's Lewis's top selection. Lewis, many a man out there hope you are correct. We're just about to hear the call of riders up. Still a packed house here. The Breeders' Cup Classic has run, but we have plenty of Breeders' Cup action yet to come. The Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint and the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
I like Aesop's Fables. I like the fact that his best ever run came last time out in the Abbey behind Highfield Princess. A little bit of a bunch finish. He could have potentially finished a little bit closer on that occasion. One or two horses had an awkward trip, but I love the way he's looked all week long going out with the O'Brien horses. You'd have seen him as well, Michelle.
Yeah, I definitely did. I'm just concerned that the ground might be too rattly for him. I feel like he likes a little bit more give.
Yeah, I would have been of the same opinion, but the ground in Paris, Longines, was actually pretty quick. That's just allayed my fears about perhaps needing a little bit of juice.
Okay.
They're coming out of the saddling paddock, and we'll have a post parade for you shortly, but plenty of time to take a look at how we attack this thing. Give me a wager here, Rishi.
Well, I've put Aesop's Fable in an exacta box. Obviously, I'm going to include Living the Dream there because I think that he's not going to be far away. And I'm going to add Caravel, last year's winner. I think, obviously, the speed test here will suit her. She's a very good horse, and I can't see her out of the 3.
Let's check in with Ashley Mayu.
Thanks, Michael Joyce. Joined by trainer Michael Trombetta, looking for success here with the 12, Arzac. He stepped up in his last 2. What do you attribute that to?
I think he's just getting good at the right time. He's kind of just blossoming. You know, he's really just coming around when it counts.
Obviously, he's drawn towards the outside today and cutting back from 5.5 to 5. Does that bother you at all?
Yeah, I wish I had a little bit more time to work with it, but he's pretty fast, and hopefully he can find a spot to save some ground to turn and maybe get a good run at him.
Best of luck here.
Thank you.
We're a little surprised at 16-1 is the price on Arzac with the 2-race win streak and the victory in the Woodford.
Not really. I mean, I can understand why it's all ended up the way it has. I still personally think that what happened in the Woodford is going to be overturned this time. But you know, I said at the start of all the turf racing that I thought the Europeans would win all 4 of the turf races today. Todd had a little giggle with me. I'm going to stick with it because it's not going too badly so far.
I'm not giggling, as I think there's going to be more speed in here, though, than we were saying earlier, because I think Caravel is quite the quick one, and Nobles is another one who wants to be forwardly placed. So
if either one of those are as fast as
Living the Dream.
Living the Dream.
Well, they don't have to be fast enough for the whole distance, but will they be fast enough for a quarter mile or so to soften them up? Big Invasion leads them onto the track for Christophe Clement.
Yeah, Big Invasion is a horse that has enormous talent. I'm slightly concerned about the draw one with all the speed around and whether or not that will allow the horse to get clear sailing.
Interesting to note, he's bred by John O'Mara, who also owns Roses for Deborah in this race. Here's Caravel, your defending champion in here for trainer Brad Cox, already with some winners on the Breeders' Cup weekend. She's coming off a runner-up effort last out.
Yeah, and that was behind Tony Ann at Keeneland. Tony Ann, obviously, just a neck in front of Caravel on that occasion, puts her in the mix.
The 5 is the very speedy Livin' the Dream for Adam West, coming out of that 4th place finish in the Woodford, but set torrid fractions, and you get the turn back in distance.
Next up is Gear Jockey, who came out on top last time. A horse that I think has got enough speed to play a part, but whether it's got the class, I'm not entirely certain.
No Balls wants to have a little bit of impact on the front runners, but I'm not sure if he's quick enough to stay up there. He's coming off a win in the De Haas at Colonial last time out. He does have 4 victories and 7 outs at the flat 5.
Aesop's Fables has looked good in training all week. I think he produced a career best last time out. It is possible that this 3-year-old is still improving at this time of the season.
The aforementioned Roses for Deborah is coming off a defeat last time out, but it was a very yielding course where she did not appear happy at all. She's back on firm ground today. Expect a much improved effort.
We spoke about the ex-British runner, Motorious, who settled into Way of Life with Philip D'Amato.
Wait, you have to say his name right. It's Motorious.
Motorious. You have to say it twice, don't you?
Jasper Crone comes through next, and this horse very on the muscle right there in the post parade.
And then Arzac, who of course was ahead of the horse that I think might win, Living the Dream. Whether the race will pan out in the same sort of manner today, I'm not too sure.
Off the Alsos, Beer Can Man drawing in another trainee for Phil D'Amato, Little Red Feather Racing and Madacat Stables, looking for a victory here with their son of Can the Man. He's been settling for minor awards, although he was victorious on the Preakness undercard going this trip.
And that is your field for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, as we are 9 minutes away from post. Arzac, I keep coming back to this horse, and so does the DRF formulator. Michael Trombetta's barn has remained hot after Arzac's upset in the Woodford, as they've compiled a 7-for-28 record, just betting Michael Trombetta blind since that event. You would have a positive return on investment, $2.27 for every $2 wagered, and that is between October 19th and October 29th. That's all we get is a positive ROI for betting a barn blind. Does not impress Michelle Yu.
Look, great. You're getting 15-1 right now. It's twice his morning line. If you like Arzac and you want to bet blind, this is going to be a huge price for you. I thought he looked a little warm in the post parade. I don't necessarily know if his post position is ideal.
Let's talk daily doubles here, as we've got just 3 races left on the day. 8 minutes out from this one. Michelle, how are you going to play it?
So looking at my daily double, I'm going to use the two obvious horses in here, one up front and one from behind. That's Living the Dream and Motorious. Going ahead to race number 11, I thought it wasn't as cut and dry in the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint, so I went 3 deep. I'm going to use the 6 in this particular spot, the Chosen Vron. That's basically a heart play, but maybe it'll work out today for this Calbred who's seeking his 9th straight victory. I'm going to utilize Speedboat Beach, who was handed defeat last time, but it was off the layoff. I think he absolutely has room to improve. And then the favorite Elite Power. We saw Cody's Wish be able to double up for Bill Mott. I think Elite Power is well slated. He's going to have plenty of speed to run into in this race.
Yeah, I think the East Coast horses might be just better in the sprint division with Goodnight and Elite Power. But let's keep it on the turf sprint right now. Caravel we saw win this race a year ago. This is a little beyond the past performances. Brad Cox saying excited about getting her on some firm turf. She's completely different on it. I think she's fast. No, she hasn't gone sub 21 like we saw from Living the Dream last time out in the Woodford. But I think she's very quick, and I don't think they have any other game plan than to go.
I imagine that she's going to get out, get ahead of Big Invasion, who's on her inside. Connections of Living the Dream were delighted with being in 5 because they wanted ideally to have Caravel on the inside to aim at. But I thought that Living the Dream would still go past her in the early part of the race. Whether he'd get across and get to the rail ahead of Caravel, I'm not sure. She is so good when she's on her game, on her surface, on her track. That was the only concern for me, that if Living the Dream gets hooked up and can't get past Caravel, and what does Sean Caran do? This is the biggest ride of his career.
The two of you, I hope you weren't copying off of one another, but you're very resolute in your pace scenario here that you're drawing up. You both think that Living the Dream is going to get the lead, and comfortably so.
Yes, absolutely. Usually if we see 20 and change, it's down the hill. I mean, I can't think of another horse that puts up those kind of fractions, and really until the final, 10 strides, he was around at Keeneland.
And he does that back home?
Yep, that's his style. He ran all the while. You look at the way he goes. He's quite quick away. He's got good speed in the first furlong of the race, and he tends to develop. And then in the past, depending on the type of track, especially somewhere like Newmarket, he ran in the Palace House Stakes earlier in the season, and he ran with a great deal of credit. But the last furlong at Newmarket, you're climbing uphill. If you're showing plenty of pace, you're going to be gasping for air in that last 50 yards.
Well, does that play to what you were saying earlier, that the Nunthorpe, you were thinking perhaps he's not going to see out the 5?
No, I hadn't been wise enough, I'll be entirely honest. You both know I'm not the brightest. And so when I was looking at his form previously, I said, well, he's not good enough to win this race because he's never produced the sort of form that Highfield Princess has done, that Bradsell has done, one or two others lined up in the Nunthorpe. But then when you look back at what Connections have been saying about actually the type of races that he's been running in and the type of courses that he's suited to, that York was the first time that he was able to play his game, which was pace from the front, and they couldn't drag him back.
Did you talk to Adam West after he came to gate school the other day?
Yes.
Because he was not happy that they had to come in gate school. And I asked him, are you going to go out the front or back him up? And he was pretty short and said, we're obviously going out the front. This horse has never backed up in his life. But I don't know if that was an ideal situation for him 3 mornings out for the Breeders' Cup.
No, hopefully not. I mean, the difference between him training out here, and I'm really pleased that he came to Keeneland, because the training back home in Epsom, it's a very, very quiet part of town. It's not even like Newmarket or Lambourne, where there are lots of horses around and there's lots of activity and lots of questions asked about the temperament of a horse. In Epsom, it's very quiet. There aren't as many horses just simply in training in that area. And so the whole setup, scenario, requirements of a horse in the morning is very different. So I was delighted that he had a go at Keeneland and he had an opportunity to spend time here, and now he's settled in here.
I'm so glad to hear you say that, because the first morning he came here, he was a mess. He was very hot. He was nervous about everything. Subsequent mornings, he has gotten so much better. And look at him now. He's here on a huge crowd day, and he's back there without the pony with his head bowed over. He is being a perfect gentleman. I think it was so smart to bring him in here, go to Keeneland, and then come over here with time to acclimate.
Well, we're back to the horse whose name must be sung, Motorious, at 5-2, plus 250 odds as your current favorite for Phil D'Amato. And this horse, I don't know that he needs a pace to run into. You look at his victory in the San Simeon when they were running down the hillside turf course. He was forwardly placed and very fast, but they do run downhill, literally, on that course. And last time out, I don't know that they wanted to be that far back. I don't know if they had a choice, but he's versatile in that he's won these races at 5. He's won them at 6.5 down the hillside. And I just feel like he's the now horse, and that's what the wagering public are clinging to.
He is the now horse, because if I'd said, or someone had said to me 2 years ago when this horse was trained in the UK, that he would be favourite for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, I'd have thought you were dreaming, imagining, talking about a parallel universe. He was a pretty useful horse in UK, but he was just a decent handicapper, was what we call a handicapper. He was not a pattern horse, not a horse capable of running in Group 1, 2, or 3. But he certainly turned things around in America for Philip D'Amato, and he looks like he's getting better, if anything.
Well, now let me tell you this. As soon as he came over here for D'Amato, we were talking about, well, maybe he's going to be a Breeders' Cup horse. You come into this barn and you're a Euro import. We instantly think the highest possible things. This horse could have run last in every race, and he could have come here, and we would have been like, oh, this horse is going to win everything. Also, to your nod about where he was level-wise, when he came over here, he was beaten against allowance foes. He finally ended up besting them, and then they took him very slowly. This is his first try against Grade 1 Company. They went restricted stake in the Clocker's Corner, and then Grade 3, and then Grade 2, and they ended up in the Green Flash because it was a win and you're in. But it's not like they threw him right into the deep end.
So here's a look at Living the Dream. He's got the pony rider and a handler with him holding the reins. Or, excuse me, holding a lead rope. So is this typical for him?
Normally he's pretty relaxed. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I'm pretty certain at York he didn't have an extra handler. He was down at the start on his own. I didn't see him pre-race before Keeneland, obviously, because I wasn't around. But certainly in Europe, he's been pretty cool and calm, and he hasn't needed anyone to help him get into the stalls.
So he's this fast. He ran around the turn at Keeneland, obviously, last time out. We were talking earlier in the week about how the straightaway turf races a little different than what they have to do here in the States.
Yes, it is a little different.
And that turn wasn't his undoing? It was just he went too fast last time out at Keeneland?
I think it was, yeah, I mean, he seemed to handle the turn beautifully, I thought, at Keeneland. And I don't think, I mean, he's had a lot of experience in the UK around a number of different tracks, the majority of them on straight tracks, but he has been around a bend in competition. We were talking about Big Evs yesterday, who'd never been around a bend in competition. This horse has. And I don't think there's anything about the configuration of the course, the ground, the whole setup that we should be worried about. It's simply a case of, is he good enough? Is he fast enough? I think the answer is yes.
We will find out in just a matter of moments. 7-2 on Living the Dream, and the favorite is Motorious. As they go into line for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, we go to Frank Miramati.
Thank you, Michael. 5 furlongs on the turf, and here is Caravel trying to beat the boys once again. She takes up her spot under Tyler Gaffleone. Here's Tony Ann. And those two familiar rivals break side by side. They were 1-2 last time out at Keeneland in the Franklin. Jasper Crone coming up. Here's Gear Jockey in the Calumet Farm colors. Noble's coming up. Arzac. Another of the Phil D'Amato runners. Beer Can Man, Santa Anita's leading rider, Juan Hernandez, going up. They're in the gate. And they're off in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Beer Can Man, Roses for Deborah, both out very quickly. And on the inside, here comes Living the Dream. Living the Dream is very quick, as is Jasper Crone. So these two sizzle down the backstretch with Roses for Deborah, a length and a half behind them. Beer Can Man is in the clear. Motorious in traffic. Caravel is down at the rail. Arzac, Green Silks passing horses on the outside of No Balls. It's another length and a half back to Aesop's Foibles outside. On the inside is Big Invasion, Gear Jockey second to last, and Tony Ann is at the back, and it's Living the Dream blazing the way to the top of the stretch, pursued intently by Caravel, who's got a clear shot. Nobles comes through along the inside. Roses for Deborah in between. Arzac's running a big race, and Aesop's Foibles on the far outside is closing stoutly late. Here's Nobles coming through to take the lead close to home. Far outside, Aesop's Foibles. Here's the line, and Big Invasion. Nobles held off. An absolutely flying Big Invasion. Aesop's Fables finished up in third. Behind them, there was a battle that included Motorious along with Beer Can Man.
No Balls with the victory in a sensationally fast clock in here. 55 seconds flat for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint.
I didn't think that he would be on the lead, and he found a whole new home today coming from off of it. The pace laid up pretty similar to what we thought it was going to be. That was a very cool finish. I have to go back and watch it 2 or 3 more times.
We're going to, so rest assured you will get what you desire. Let's take a look at this at coming out of the turn here, and it was the pace scenario that you two drew up. Rishi, Live in the Dream did what we expected.
He did what we expected. He went really quick, and he had a significant advantage turning for home. Caravel couldn't lay up with him. Jasper Krohn did, but then burnt off. All the while, No Balls was holding down to that inside rail. When they turned in, I thought Live in the Dream probably just had enough of an advantage to see it out. But when Sean Curran asks him for everything, he just starts to empty out and leans off the rail. And that was the key moment for No Balls, and he's taken every advantage.
Larry Ravelli and Gerardo Corrales scoring here in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint in impressive fashion. And look at that charge coming late from Big Invasion or Joel Rosario. He almost gets there.
That was a terrific run from Big Invasion. Another horse to run the rail and get a late clearing. And Aesop's Fables on the outside. Ryan Moore's had to do something different to those two who've stuck to the rail. He's had to come round horses, and he has finished with a rare rattle as well.
12-1 over 12-1 in the exacta here. If you cash in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, you're going to have one of our bigger exactas on the day. As you can see, the shutter cam angle here to give you just exactly that margin there. It was tight, but in the end about a neck for the win.
Big Invasion is such an honest horse as well. I've seen him obviously on his travels when he came to Ascot. Things didn't quite work out on that occasion, but it's great to see him producing his best in this sort of scenario. Living the Dream, well done, finishing 5th. That's a terrific result for a horse. Fourth. Sorry, where he started off the season. You know, to end up at the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint being favourite and run a creditable race like that, terrific. I think he just ran out a bit of puff late on. And I'm really pleased with the run from Aesop's Fables. I think he could be a really talented sprinter next year going into his 4-year-old season.
What a close. I mean, that was another turn of foot that we're seeing here. A lot of the European horses are delivering these really explosive late runs, and that was one of them.
That's No Balls there, your winner of the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. Ravelli Racing with the victory. Larry Ravelli, a fixture in the Chicago circuit for years and years, one of the top trainers in the Midwest. But on a national stage, they haven't seen as much of him as I'm sure he would like. He made a name for himself on the Derby Trail this year with the blazingly fast 2 fills. And now here he is, a Breeders' Cup champion with No Balls.
Can I just say, too, I love the fact that the last couple of races we've seen have been very affordable horses. You look at White Abario, he was a $40,000 in training horse with a $5,000 sire. Look at No Balls, he was a $3,500 phasing tipped into purchase. And his sire stands for only $20,000.
Cheers to the breeder, Dr. John A. Chandler. Don't worry, John. I think the next one out of Pearly Blue will fetch more than $3,500.
Just thinking about that run of Big Invasion again, and actually, he's really unlucky. Not only has he had to make up ground against the rail, but there's a moment where he's had to check in the straight just as he's about to unwind, and he has to take a pause, switch past the horse that's tiring in front of him. Really unlucky, actually, if you'd backed.
We should watch it again so we can see.
I'd love to see it again.
So the defending champ Caravel is one that we want to take a keen look at, because obviously not repeating here in the Breeders' Cup, but one who was certainly one to watch. And you were going to hope that this one was going to be maybe a little more prominently placed. But let's go now and take a look at Caravel. You can see right there.
There's Caravel. You have an ISO replay on her coming along the inside. She's going to try to forge for the lead after laying a little bit further off the pace than we typically see her. But we've also seen her off the pace in her last couple, and it hasn't come to fruition for her. Maybe she's just a need the lead to have her best race type of filly. Right here, she's going to get absolutely swallowed up. There's your eventual winner on the rail. There's your second place finisher passing her, and she's just going to go backwards from here. It looks to me like Gaffleone realizes she's beat. Look, he's just going to hand ride her in. He's not asking her to do much more than that. He already has her in check by the time they cross the wire.
It wasn't her day today, and she's off form than what we saw last year. But there he is, Larry Ravelli, the man in the shades. A lot of us here. There was the famous Ravelli Racing commercial they made on HRTV years ago, which might be one of the greatest commercials of all time. I recommend all of you that have access to any sort of internets to look up the Ravelli Racing commercial on YouTube. But let's take a look once again that unlucky trip, you said, of Big Invasion.
Just keeping an eye. Big Invasion and Aesop's Fables are alongside each other at the moment. One goes the inside rail, the other goes wide. Joel Rosario down on the inside, and he's got to wait. Obviously, he's got to be patient here, but he's on the inside following. The horse just ahead of him is the eventual winner. Ryan Moore is having to swing right round the outside. And there's a point where I'm thinking, well, he's actually following No Balls Through, and that he's going to have a clean run following that horse. But it just gets tight here. Just a stride, but that's enough in a 5 furlong sprint to actually cost you half a length.
Well,
and
when
in
you
the
only
end,
lose by a neck like that, with that much momentum too.
Absolutely, you've had to regain the momentum, pick it up again. I think he is the unlucky horse in the race.
A different trip he might win today as we take a look at the Winner's Circle celebration. But it's all smiles and happiness and racing luck going into the corner of No Balls. Patricia's Hope LLC is gelding trained by Larry Ravelli and Gerardo Corrales. Couldn't be happier for him to get the victory. So as they celebrate in the winner's circle, we're going to take a look forward for the final Breeders' Cup race this afternoon. That is the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. We'll have the post-race reaction and interviews in just a moment here for the Turf Sprint. But looking forward, final Breeders' Cup race of the day, one of the classic Breeders' Cup races. $2 million on the line, a 6 furlong affair, and some of the fastest horses in training. Opening up as the early favorite right now is Speedboat Beach.
I'm a little surprised about that. I really thought that Elite Power would open up as your favorite, but, you know, Baffert's looking for a win right now. We know Speedboat Beach is going to improve off of his off-the-bench effort, and he's a logistical horse here.
He certainly is. Elite Power right now, 5-2, second choice in the early wagering.
I love Elite Power. He's traveled the world. He's proven that he is a brilliant racehorse wherever he goes. He looks uncomplicated in everything he's done. I imagine as long as it's a strongly run race, which when is the Breeders' Cup Sprint never a strongly run race, and he can just have a target to aim at, I'm hoping that he picks them up. I think he deserves a win like this because I just love everything he does about him. He's one of those horses that I'd like to be friends with.
it's Elite Power. He's been friendly to the bettors because he wins more often than he doesn't.
I'll tell you what, he's not super friendly when you come see him. He tried to bite my face like 3 days this week, and it's because you have to have carrots, organic carrots, and they have to be big organic carrots.
No one should try and bite your face, Michelle.
I know.
That's ridiculous.
He was not happy. You can't come asking him questions and not bear gifts.
I don't know if I blame the horse in this situation. At any rate, we are awaiting the Winner's Circle presentation for the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We'll get you down there in just a matter of moments. But these are the odds as they stand at 25 minutes to post. I think Elite Power and Goodnight might be the two best in here. And when they cross the wire, I think they're going to be those two in front.
What was the story of the race at Saratoga when Goodnight beat Elite Power last time?
Well, it's further.
It's a 7 furlong event.
Simple as that?
I think so.
That 7 furlongs is as tricky a distance as there is.
You're back to 3/4. This is Elite Power's
Larry Ravelli's just fielding a phone call here, I think, from the owner. From the winning owner? Yes. Because Vincent, Patricia Folia are not here today to make the presentation to them via telephone. I'm not sure we've ever done this before. Breeders' Cup Ambassador Bo Derrick. Bo, lovely to see you again. And Breeders' Cup board member Tom Ryan with his wife Katie. Are they on the phone?
He was just on the phone. He said party people in the house.
Call him up. Call him up. We'll get him on. Listen, we can't not hear from him. You've won a Breeders' Cup race, Vince, and Patricia, and they can't make it here. Just tell me where they are, Larry.
Naples, Florida. Patricia's Hope, Pat, his mom, Vince, his dad, Vinny. It's my people.
All right, so we can't get him on?
Can't get him on. We just had him.
Oh, too bad.
He did have a quote, though.
All right, what did he say?
Party people in the house.
Party people in the house. I think that's an instruction to you. Many congratulations all, and we'll see you right back here, Del Mar next year.
We're going to do it again.
Awesome. Well done, Larry.
Thank you.
And well done to Vince and Patricia.
Thank
I
you.
tried. Bo, thanks so much.
You got it. Thank you, Bo.
All right, Ahmed.
So we're going to take another look here at the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint from just moments ago. Once again, we've gone over it a couple times. Let's take it from the beginning here, Michelle.
Yeah, super strong break actually from the 9 Roses for Deborah, as well as the 14 Beer Can Man, who took that early advantage. It actually took the 5 Living the Dream a couple of strides to get into gear, but once he got into gear, he was out there clear and pretty much uncontested. Jasper Crone tried to put some pressure on him, but Living the Dream is going to spurt away right here, and you can see every other horse under a drive to try and reel him in. And he wasn't going as quick as he had at Keeneland, but he was absolutely rattling around this turn. Some horses need to slow down in a turn, not Living the Dream. He relished that. But the early fast pace took its toll here, and as he turned away with an advantage, here comes some horses up the rail, including your winner right there in the black blinkers and the blue silks under a drive, but saved all that ground and able to close into that. And then Aesop's Fables on the outside coming. What a race.
It really was. I mean, we've seen some classic finishes in this year's Breeders' Cup. It's been
This has been
tremendous.
the year of photos.
Yeah, both mile races, the filly and mare sprint, the distaff. It's been tremendous. We'll be back with our final Breeders' Cup race of the afternoon, the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Garbage time. That phrase never sounded quite right, because no part of football is meaningless. So cherish every 2 minutes of the NFL, not just the ones you're warned about. Cherish the spreads to cover, overs to hit, and chances to live bet from the first down to the final whistle. So don't just watch football this season, cherish it.
Bet $5, get $150 bonus if your team wins, plus a profit boost every single day. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
This is a Kentucky Thoroughbred. This is a Kentucky-built Powerfoil industrial fan. Like a Thoroughbred, it too delivers unrivaled performance. And while they both run with purpose and pride, this one also runs to keep your workforce feeling cool and comfortable. Powerfoil, our best-selling big fan hands down. BigFans.com. Comfort without compromise.
Dream Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger.
Snake Nick Spear and Shane Murphy get through and have won.
It's getting really tight. The star of the season, drawing line.
The purple cap. Kamiko the far side of him. Kamiko's won. The other midline. Mongostina has just won it with Mosse.
Ocean Road after going to Vegas. Ocean Road.
It is going to be Caramel to win the turf sprint.
The $1 million Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint has produced some stirring stretch battles, like the 1993 renewal, won by 7-year-old Cardmania at Santa Anita. This 40th running of a test of raw speed will be hard-pressed to top what Midnight Loot did here in 2008. He blazed 6 furlongs in 107.08 to win the sprint in consecutive years, and that record time still stands. His trainer, Bob Baffert, has won the sprint a record 5 times, the first coming in 1992 with 30 slews. This is the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint.
Hard to believe we've already gotten to this point with the final Breeders' Cup race on tap, the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. Before we conclude the day, though, we have seen some classic performances both on Future Stars Friday and especially today.
We have indeed, of course, highlighted by White Abario in the Breeders' Cup Classic. I think the ride from Ryan Moore on Auguste Rodin is going to be one of the moments for me, certainly,
Cody's
of this
Wish.
Breeders' Cup. Yes.
Cody's Wish, you guys. I can't get over that finish.
It was
and the added drama with the inquiry.
I
and
know,
everything
right?
else.
It's been an excellent day, but we still have one of the most exciting races yet to come, the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. And you can still get in the action when you sign up for a new account with FanDuel Racing. New customers can bet the Breeders' Cup with a no-sweat win bet up to $200 on FanDuel Racing. That's up to $200 back if you don't win your first single horse win bet. Just place your first win bet on a single horse in any race at any track, like Santa Anita on Breeders' Cup Saturday, and get up to $200 back as a racing bonus if you don't win. Go to FanDuel Racing for details. And if you're an existing customer, well, you can play the Breeders' Cup with FanDuel Racing and get win bet insurance on all races at Santa Anita. That's right. Get your first win bet back up to $10 as a racing credit if you finish second or third. Go to FanDuel Racing for details with the QR code on screen right now. This offer extends through Breeders' Cup Saturday. That is today. Let's take a look at horses in the saddling paddock here for the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. 2-1 right now on your current favorite in Elite Power. I think that's more in line of what we were expecting here in the wagering.
I think so. One more opportunity for a returning champion here in the Breeders' Cup. We did have Cody's Wish come back. We did have Goodnight Olive come back, and Elite Power has his chance to add to that list in here. Bill Mott has his chance to pick up a third Breeders' Cup this weekend.
I think that going into the Breeders' Cup, we saw Bill Mott was loaded. I think his horses have run as expected and as anticipated. Looking at Elite Power, he was defeated last time by that horse on your screen, Gunite, but that was going 7 furlongs. This is the three-quarter race, all Elite Power.
It is a day of champions and Hall of Famers. More on that in a moment. It's not just the Racing Hall of Fame. As we take a look at our reporters on the ground, Dubsy in studio, Joaquin on site. We have Kyle around the wagers, but it's Ashley Mayu who drew the lucky straw as she is joined by a member of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I sure am, Michael. Joyce, you want to talk about big performances and big people here as well, and horses. We have Richie Sambora on site for the Breeders' Cup. Richie, I know you're...
Ashley, darling, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Very well.
I know you're a fan of racing, but what brings you out to the Breeders' Cup today?
Well, I think Bob Baffert is a good friend of mine, and obviously I'm no stranger to the Breeders' Cup. I've been here for like 10 years now, and yeah, I've been following Triple Crown for a long time, and you know, I started going to races with my dad when I was a kid. It was one of those things, and it's just a great sport.
How's your wagering been today? Have you been wagering all day long?
I won a couple, lost a couple, you know, but I'm doing pretty good.
So what are we playing here in Speedboat Beach?
Oh, I think Speedboat's going to win. It's about time. Race number 11, that's my lucky number, and I got my lucky derby.
All right, you brought the fashion. Hopefully some more winners. See Richie. Have a great day at the races.
Let's hope so.
He's actually played the national anthem. He did a Sing with Bing when we had the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar. He's been a great ambassador for the Breeders' Cup, as has Joaquin Jaime.
And Mike, when you look at the Breeders' Cup Sprint this year, there is one horse that nearly won this race a couple years ago, and that is the 2 in here in Dr. Schivel. He was just nosed out at Del Mar a few years ago. And you look at his campaign this year, he's had 4 runs, but he's been very good going 6 furlongs. A victory earlier on. He comes off another head victory in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship. He just missed by a neck behind the Chosen Vron in them being Crosby. Kyle, I'm going with the 2 here in Dr. Schivel. This is his racetrack, and this is his distance that he wants, going 3/4 of a mile. Who's your top pick, Kyle?
Well, Dr. Schivel's a good one, Joaquin, but I'm going with number 9, Gunite. Tyler Gaffleone, Steve Asmussen teaming up here. They were 2 for 4 this summer. Those 2 losses, well, they happen to come off of a sloppy track, actually. This track, not too sloppy today. So, liking Gunite here, a little bit of a cutback in distance for him, like the outside pole, too. What about you, Dubs?
Yeah, thank you, Kyle. Let's bring one home here for race number 11 for me. I'm going to go with the class of the field. Elite Power sitting at 2-1 as the top betting choice at the FanDuel Sportsbook. A little surprising. Speedboat Beach, second selection for the public at 5-2. It was Dr. Schivel who bested Speedboat Beach last out. So it's 6-1 at +600 in FanDuel Racing. That's where the value lies for me. Dr. Schivel, the 2 as the value play. Elite Power going to be very tough to beat in this spot. Back to you, Mike.
Here's the thing. There's no one more provincial about California racing than I am. I love California horses. I think we have the best racing. I think we have the best horses. I think we have the best sprinters especially. I just think these East Coast horses are faster. I think Elite Power and Goodnight, you look at the numbers they're running on Thorograph, you look at the buyer speed figures they put up, I just think they're better. It pains me to say that, but if I'm a wagering man here, I just think you got to go with one of the two. Goodnight's a better price at 7-2, and he did get the best of Elite Power, but as we mentioned before, Michelle, that was at a different distance.
Certainly at a different distance, and the 7 furlongs is such a challenging distance, and it's such a specialist distance. I definitely wouldn't say he's an absolute shoo-in just because he beat Elite Power going 7 panels.
2-1 on Elite Power is a very generous price.
Right.
When you're looking at the speed figures in here and how he stacks up against the other competition. I think if you have a concern with Elite Power, it's that the way he does his best running, I think, is when he drops back off the pace and he makes that one run right down the middle of the racetrack. Part of what may have bothered him in the forego was that he was along the inside. I think he prefers to be on the outside rather than running along the inside. But if you noticed earlier today in the turf, when Ira Ortiz was on up to the mark, he slowly inched his way up down the backstretch. He didn't ask his horse for a move that would take something out of him in the stretch, but he took inch by inch down up the backstretch and put himself in striking position as they turn for home. I think he's going to do the exact same thing with Elite Power. He's not going to ask him, but he's not going to take anything away from him from about the half-mile pole onward so that he doesn't have so much ground to make up once they hit the quarter pole.
The best story in the sprint division in California this year has unquestionably been the Chosen Brawn, a Calbred. He has been beating up on Calbreds throughout his career, but then he ventures into Grade 1 company in the Bing Crosby, and he does this.
He was awesome in this particular race, and to be fair, he had ventured outside of Calbreds previously as a 3-year-old and had done very, very well. You can see him there in the white bridle, the chestnut horse with the striking face. This is such a cool race. He was so gutty. He did get a better trip overall than the 2 horses outside of him, Anarchist and Dr. Schivel, but overall, he ran his race, and he deserved that score.
Joaquin?
Here with Tim Cohen, co-owner of the 2 in here, and Dr. Schivel, who's having his final career race before he goes off to Stud Dooley at TaylorMade. Coming in here with 14 career races so far, how has Mark Glatt told you that he is training into this race?
Probably as best as he ever has. He's matured well. He's training great. He's in good shape. I think he'll give us our best performance.
For a Breeders' Cup Sprint, there's really not an abundance of speed in here. Ideally, where would you be happiest to see him placed early on in, say, the first quarter mile?
I think Speedboat Beach will probably go, whether we're inside of him, keeping him off the rail, or we just get outside of him. One of the two, I think, is probably where he'll end up.
Appreciate the time. Good luck.
Thank you very much, Joaquin.
I love Dr. Schivel in his first Breeders' Cup appearance. In fact, I thought he won that day. He didn't. Aloha West got the best of him, and I want to say that we had Shutter Cam set up in the wrong spot because I could have swore he won the Shutter Cam replay as well. But he's trying to get back to the winner's circle here at Santa Anita. He's won here 4 times, and he's coming off a very nice effort on a wet fast track.
Yeah, he looked really good in the Santa Anita Sprint Championship off of the break. He's a horse who's run very well fresh previously, though, and we actually saw him do a lot of good work in Dubai when he went over for the Golden Shaheen back in 22. He's also a really fun story. When he has time off, he lives outside Tim Cohen's front door.
Really?
The 3 horses to scratch. Hoist the Gold is the 4. We'll circle back and get you a look at the 1 horse just as soon as we complete seeing the rest of these runners. Huge number for the Dallas Stewart trainee when winning the Phoenix last out at Keeneland. The question is, can he duplicate that coming back today?
Free Technique has been a 1-turn miler for the vast majority of his career. He's going to cut back to a distance where he has yet to get his photo taken. Rafael Bejarano, who is well known in Southern California, takes the reins.
The Chosen Brawn up next. The Calbred is on an 8-race win streak. Took the Bing Crosby that we just showed you. This the toughest test of his career today.
Speedboat Beach, Bob Baffert looking for another Breeders' Cup Sprint victory. He carries the same silks as Midnight Loot did back when he took this race at Monmouth Park. Second off the bench for the son of Bayern.
Up next will be your defending champion, Elite Power. He was so impressive in winning this race last year at Keeneland. He would follow that up with a win in the Riyadh Dirt Sprint on the Saudi program back in February. He's come back this year with back-to-back wins and that second-place effort behind Gunite in the 7 furlong forego.
Gunite is Elite Power's arch nemesis. They have traded blows, and Gunite is on pattern for a victory, but is he as good at 6 furlongs as he is when he goes further?
And we circle back to the 1 Nakatomi. Luis Saez in the saddle here for Qatar Racing, and their partners. Wesley Ward trains the son of Firing Line. He was second in the Phoenix last out, and a hard-fought second at that.
Let's take a look back in time to a year ago when it was Elite Power who won the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And that was at Keeneland Racecourse, and he did so quite impressively. Now, it was CZ's Rocket and Jackie's Warrior. He had the old man finishing second, and Jackie's Warrior, with all that talent, having to settle for third. But it was an off-the-pace effort that day that capped a 5-race win streak at the time.
Yeah, he was in great form going into this race, but again, right down the middle, this is where he wants to be. I think he wants that exact path. He wants clear sailing, and he wants a little speed to run at. He'll get it from Speedboat Beach, maybe from Gunite, and I think Irad again will kind of inch up down the backstretch and turn him loose as they turn for home.
I've got a price horse for you to include in your exotics. All right, the 4, Hoist the Gold. He's coming off a win in the Phoenix where he pressed the pace, but this horse picks up checks in all of the big races. I know he didn't really run his race in the Bing Crosby or the Pat O'Brien out here, but he has run his race out here before. He was third in the Malibu over this trip, and he's the horse that delivers third place finishes at huge odds. That just makes a difference on your day if you're playing the exotics.
Let's get Formulator on Speedboat Beach, and this is really playing with the Formulator because it's not readily available. You gotta tinker with it. How about this stat? Trainer Bob Baffert, 8 for his last 18. That's a positive ROI of $2.68, with dirt horses making their second start after layoffs ranging between 6 months and a year.
Very specific.
Yes, very specific. And once again, 8 for 18, almost 50% with that. So it is a little bit higher than what Bob is used to doing. But it seems like every move that you can make a stat out of, unless it's a turf race, Bob Baffert is going to have a ridiculously high percentage.
Well, this horse was a turf horse to begin with, really. Do we worry about the bounce factor for him? I mean, he was a huge debut number, and he was able to back that up with a victory, but he comes off of the layoff with a 103 buyer that we haven't seen him post since his career debut, and what do we expect from him here?
It's a good question.
Bafferts don't bounce.
That's a good point. Joaquin and I were talking about this horse just a little while ago. He has the same pattern as Secret Circle. Came back off a long layoff, didn't necessarily win, built off of that, won the sprint in that next start.
Ashley.
Upsets on the big days are not a rarity for you, Dallas Stewart. Sending out the number 4, Hoist the Gold here. What was the reason that kind of changed things for him last time out with that win?
I mean, I think it was Johnny V. You know, he engaged him early, got him out of the gates good, and I think that's important. We don't have to be on the lead, but you got to get him started, and he did a hell of a job with him last time. Got us here today.
With that said, do you expect him very close to the lead early on?
Well, you know, Johnny's going to do his thing. He's going to get him away and see the way it goes, but he's going to get him started. That's the plan.
Good luck here.
Thank you.
I love Dallas Stewart. He's as game as they come. If his horse is doing well, he goes, and he has pulled major upsets. I'll tell you what, though, Hoist the Gold at 21 to 1 right now, plus 2,100 odds. This horse is coming off of a victory in the Phoenix at Keeneland over Nakatomi. I actually like Nakatomi a little bit. I've got him as my third choice in here after Elite Power and Gunite. I thought that horse ran a very good race, and on Thorograph, he ran one of the fastest numbers in the field last time out, and that was off of a bit of a layoff. If Wesley Ward can get Nakatomi to build off that, he could be dangerous at a big number.
I think he will build off of that because looking at his races and the numbers he was earning through the summer, he was slowly and progressively getting faster. Then he had some time, he came in fresh. I love a sprinter that is fresh, and they often will run one of their best performances in that circumstance, and he did, his fastest number that you're seeing. On the other side of that coin, Hoist the Gold ran a far and away new top in the Phoenix. He's at risk of bouncing coming back here this afternoon, unless it's Dallas Stewart's theory, just putting him into the race, riding him the way that he was hoping he would be ridden, aggressively and as part of the early pace. That could set a new floor, a new table in terms of what he is capable of in these races.
So let's really get into this pace scenario, Michelle. How do you see this race unfolding?
Such a good question, Mike. I think that we're going to be seeing Speedboat Beach set your early fractions, right? I think that the Chosen Vron, I don't want to see him too far back with this particular group. I think that Elite Power is going to be out further. Certainly going to have, like Christina said, Hoist the Gold pressing the pace. Really, I feel like we have a lot of horses that want to be close and not on the lead is what it comes down to, which means they'll go 21 flat.
What do you think?
I think Michelle's right. I think Speedboat Beach makes the lead today. I don't think we have many horses in here that are as fast as he is. I don't think Gunite will be too far off of it. Hoist the Gold will be involved. Dr. Schivel will probably be in that second flight of horses along with the Chosen Vron. The California horses, and we've seen this a few times today, they are just faster. Whether or not they hold on is part of the question, but you look and assess the pace scenario, and Arabian Night made the lead in the Classic. National Treasure made the lead in the Dirt Mile. I think there's no mistakes about it. With a clean break, Speedboat Beach makes the lead, and he will build off that last race and try to take him gate to wire.
You're running out of time to get in the action. Sign up for an account with FanDuel Racing, and you can bet the Breeders' Cup with a no-sweat win bet up to $200. That's right, up to $200 back if you don't win your first single-horse win bet. Just place your first win bet on a single horse at any racetrack, like this one maybe, and get up to $200 back as a racing bonus if you don't win. Go to FanDuel Racing for details. 4 minutes out here as we're getting a good look on the racetrack of 3 Technique. Say a horse by Mr. Speaker. He's coming off of a 3rd place finish in the ACAC, winner of the Nehrude at Belmont. 2-back. He's 25-1.
He actually ran in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile last year at Keeneland, and I thought that was going to be a lot more up his alley. Looking at his race record, I think that he likes the mile, but they decided to really shorten him up here, and he's been winless at this particular distance. Part of it might be because he wasn't in the same form as he's been showing lately. Part of it might be because he was on synthetic, and I feel like he's just not a good synthetic horse.
I think there's a lot of times when you want to see, a horse turning back in distance, and if we had one of those editions of the Breeders' Cup Sprint where there was so much early pace and early speed, this could be the perfect storm for him, but that's not the scenario today. I don't think that's really the year. We have Speedboat Beach, and I think he separates and distinguishes himself in terms of the speed in here today. There's plenty of speed for a sprint race, but Speedboat Beach is your clear leader in the clear speed of the speed.
2 minutes out from this final Breeders' Cup race of the afternoon, and as we get closer and closer to post, Elite Power 3-2, still holding strong as your favorite. There is another race on after this event. We will close out the day with the 12th at Santa Anita, an allowance event going down the Hillside Turf Course that reads like a stakes race, and we will continue the action right here for you. But one more championship race to go as we got a good look at Speedboat Beach, the presumptive pace setter in this event.
Am I just crazy that Dr. Schivel at 6-1 is such a good bet?
He's value.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Elite Power in here, but this horse is generally an odds-on favorite or close to it, and he's 6-1. He did get hot.
A little warm out there on the racetrack. This is his final start. They'll leave it all out there today. The final career effort before he heads off to TaylorMade, as we heard. I picked the Chosen Vron in here. I know he has to continue to step up in class. I know he needs to get faster to compete with these horses, but I don't think you can quantify heart, and I think he's just proven it time and time again. He'll give you everything he has, this horse, if you give him the opportunity. Who's to say he doesn't have a little bit more in him? Every time you try to ask him to do something new, he does it. If you want him to sprint on the dirt, he can do that. You want to route on the turf, he can do that. You want to sprint on the turf, he can do that. Everything they set his mind to, he accomplishes.
His connections have been so kind over his entire career to be really welcoming to everybody, and they've been riding this wave of the Chosen Vron, Bob Fradkin and his partners who own the mare Tismali, and they have always seen what this horse could be, but have gone so patiently with him. It wasn't like, let's just throw him to the wolves. He had to earn all this, and he's just shown what a great thing a Calbred can be. The way the weekend is going, he's the heart story, right? So.
Well, I mean, they were patient. They made $1 million with them against Calbred Company. I mean, that's
well, no, because he won the La Brea or the Las Brera. He won the Affirmed, and now he won the Bing Crosby. So he's won open graded stakes races. That's going to add to your purse money.
They go into the starting gate for our final Breeders' Cup race of the day. For the call of the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint, go to Frank Miramati.
Thank you, Mike. It's been a blast, and they're moving into line. Hoist the Gold coming up. Here's Elite Power in the Juddmonk colors. 3 Technique going in. And Gunite completes the line. They're in the gate. And they're off in the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. And Speedboat Beach, like a rocket, opens up a length and a half immediately. Gunite is up close in the early going, and here's Nakatomi firing through to challenge Speedboat Beach for early supremacy. And then it's Hoist the Gold racing in between horses. Dr. Schivel is at the rail, just about 2.5 lengths off the pace. The Chosen Vron, the California bred, has 3 to make up. He is just in front of Elite Power, who is kept wide, but very close to the pace, just about 4 lengths off them with 3 furlongs to run as the field moves around the far turn. 3 Technique is at the back of the field. Speedboat Beach is the leader. Gunite pressing, and Elite Power making his presence felt with a 3-wide bid as the field turns for home. Dr. Schivel is next, and then the Chosen Bronze. Speedboat Beach comes to the 8th pole in front of Gunite, who's trying his best. Nakatomi, and Elite Power is cut loose now, and Elite Power runs right by, and he's going to defend his championship. What a magnificent sprinter Elite Power is, as he rolls home in the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. Gunite, Nakatomi, Speedboat Beach were left in his wake, and what a day for Curlin, the dirt mile, the distaff, and now the sprint with Elite Power.
What a performance here at 8-5. As billed, a repeat performance in the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint from Elite Power.
Make it now 3 on the weekend for the Hall of Famer Bill Mott as he brings back Elite Power to defend his title. And Michelle, he had to run contrary to his own style today. He was chasing to keep up with these horses, and he was wide throughout this race. A dominant victory for Elite Power when you consider the way the race was won and where he was.
To me, this was a masterful ride by Irad. Like you said, he was out of his element a little bit, being pushed along. Speedboat Beach was going pretty effortlessly up front, and he was asking Elite Power the whole race, just stay close, buddy, stay in touch. But he had so much left over in the tank. Gunite going to be on the wrong lead here. I certainly think that cost him a little bit, but obviously he was no match for an eased up winner here. Very happy to see Elite Power double up in the Breeders' Cup Sprint.
ISO replay of your eventual winner and repeat Breeders' Cup Sprint champion, Elite Power, as he makes his move through the field.
And I thought it was key that he made the move right here, because you know as they're turning for home and you don't know how much Speedboat Beach has left. As soon as you let him scoot clear as they hit the quarter pole, you're immediately that much further behind the 8 ball. He had to go at that point as Gunite was starting to take it to the pace setter so that he had those 2 within his sights.
Look at him. As soon as he switches leads here, he is all pro. He's just going to pour on an entire another gear here. This horse also does a lot of good running on the turn. For a horse as big as he is certainly agile.
All East Coast in that trifecta as well. Elite Power, Gunite,
and my Nakatomi. And a high five to all of us for not saying the word plaza after Nakatomi, which is really hard to do.
What is Nakatomi Plaza?
Have you never seen Die Hard with Bruce Willis?
No,
the greatest
Mike,
Christmas movie ever made. It all took place at Nakatomi Plaza. I can't believe I'm having this conversation. There's a look at Elite Power, your Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint champion. Cheers to the Alpha Delta Stables LLC. And that is 3 Breeders' Cup victories for not only the sire Curlin, that is 3 for Bill Mott, that is 3 for Arad Ortiz. Threes are wild here.
Threes are wild. We also saw a big day for the sire Justify yesterday, siring a pair of our juvenile winners as well. Some of the top stallions in the country performing on this Breeders' Cup weekend. And Irad Ortiz Jr. proving his versatility today. You know, in addition to those 3 wins, he had a couple very narrow defeats too, and put his horses in the position to win. Horses like Up to the Mark. He was right there for a few others. A stellar weekend for our perennial leading rider in the country, multiple Eclipse Award winning rider, as he's being interviewed on the way back once more here today at the Breeders' Cup.
It's one of those times where the Breeders' Cup has actually exceeded expectation. We came in to this weekend expecting to see greatness, as we always do. But the tightness of the competition, the repeat champions, the stories that all played out the way they did, it has just been one race after another that we will think about for years to come. Just the memories that have been made here this weekend have been tremendous.
One more look from overhead with the drone. There's a look at Elite Power with that big white blaze towards the outside in the Juddmonte Silks. He's going to go ahead and circle up around these top 2 pace setters as he heads on for home to pick up this victory. And I think the repeat winners, Michelle, brings fans back, doesn't it? People that, especially stories like Cody's Wish, this horse coming back and winning again. Good night, all of us, steady and consistent as she is. Horses that continue to perform at the highest levels, it's easy for the fans to latch on to and to follow and to want to come back and watch them compete again.
Well, I think we were talking about Bill Mott earlier and his prowess with horses and how he wants to remain a top 10 trainer. I think one of the reasons he's able to do that year in and year out is because he keeps his stable stars around. You talk about Elite Power, he's 5 years old. You talk about Cody's Wish, he's older. Casa Creed, I mean, he's 7 years old. He's still knocking around, winning grade ones.
Third place effort
Leon
today.
Seidler was beside himself earlier on today. So that's one of the things that keeps us coming back, and that's why Bill Mott's so good, though, is because he's able to keep these horses going at these older ages. It's not just you're 3, you've won your race, and we send you after the breeding shed. Unfortunately, we are going to be losing a lot of these stars to the breeding shed, but these particular horses, Elite Power and Cody's Wish, I feel like these are horses we want to see in the breeding shed if we want to develop the thoroughbred breed. They are durable, they are fast, they just look like racehorses. They look very substantial, and they were able to carry out a very high level of competition over multiple years.
Through their 5-year-old campaign. Those are the years that you want to see. 4, 5, 6. That's when a racehorse really hits their prime.
Absolutely.
And you want to talk about a prime racehorse here. Look at Elite Power. And let's go back to Speedboat Beach. Well, we saw this earlier today. We saw National Treasure, right? Like, what is he going to do? Arabian Night. What are they going to do if they were to race into their 4-year-old? These are 3-year-olds. Speedboat Beach, he ran a brilliant race. I'd love to see him come back at age 4. Think about the difference between a horse like Gunrunner. He also ran in the grade 1s as a 3-year-old. He was a champion as an older horse. He was a Breeders' Cup Classic winner as an older horse.
And look at horses like Curlin, same thing. I mean, he was good at 3. He got better at 4 and better at 5.
And his progeny are the same. They just keep getting better year after year as they get older, too.
It's an absolute testament to some of these horses, and this is the bloodline we want to continue with.
And Bill Mott with Elite Power. This is his 13th career start, his 9th career victory, his 2nd win in the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. You can see Bill there as they pose for the picture. This one for the Juddmonte stable out of a Vindication mare, Broadway's Alibi, a $900,000 yearling purchase in the Keeneland September sale of 2019. With that victory here, the earnings go well above $3 million.
Big day for Juddmonte as well. They were also victorious with Idiomatic today.
It's actually close to $4 million. They're just shy of $4 million here. It's going to be 3.9.
Maybe they'll race them again.
Hey, you got a goal for them in their race. Let's take another look at the replay. And, Speedboat Beach did what we thought. He was going to be fast early, and he was going to get the lead, and he did that.
Beat the gate, ran him off their feet early. I thought Nakatomi actually ran very well here to push up along the inside and put some pressure on Speedboat Beach.
Yeah, Nakatomi, the post position dictated his style a little bit. He had to protect the rail and had to come right up in there and really take on Speedboat Beach. And Speedboat Beach's best game and over his home track. Throughout his career, Nakatomi is a horse that's actually been stalking the pace or come from off of it. Drops back for just a second here, but he was all guts to finish 3rd today. Re-rallies in the end. In the meantime, your eventual winner and your defending champion in that pink cap, I mean, he was always traveling.
How does
Nakatomi
Nakatomi
never under a doubt that Elite Power was going by these horses?
So I didn't mean to interrupt, but I saw Nakatomi going backwards in the turn there. How did he re-rally for 3rd? And
some horses don't take those turns as well. Like I said, Elite Power was able to make that move on the turn. A lot of horses fall back on the turn because they just can't handle it, and that can lose you some ground. Elite Power with the early move and being able to move his speed in the turn without slowing down secured the deal for him.
If Nakatomi didn't have to angle out there, he might have been able to get 2nd today over a very game Goodnight. But that was a sensational finish there in the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. A beautiful shot of the grandstand here. The grandstand is full. There's no more parking, as you can see. It goes all the way out to Huntington Boulevard there. It is a sea of automobiles. That is the last of the Breeders' Cup races. We still have the nightcap, the get-out race. If you're like me, you probably want to try and take a stab at this. You don't want this day to end, and we've got wagering action for you. And you can still sign up for an account, even though the Breeders' Cup races are over. Breeders' Cup Day is not over, so we're still running that sign-up offer.
We have 10 races tomorrow.
I'm coming. Are you working tomorrow?
I'm working tomorrow. You can catch me right here at Santa Anita on the simulcast.
I got a hotel room. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not even driving home. I'm going to stay here, grab a coffee.
Right here on the desk.
I don't want to go home. Who wants to leave this place? It's the most beautiful place on the planet. Once again, no sweat first bet up to $200 when you sign up for a new account at FanDuel Racing. You can make that bet on any racetrack. Santa Anita. Maybe the last race here in like 15 minutes. And you'll get up to $200 back in wagering credits. Use the QR code on screen for details. Just waiting the final winner circle presentation here of the afternoon for this Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint. I know we're going to want to take a beat and maybe have an adult beverage and relax after 2 long days of work, but I think what we really are going to do in the next couple of days is go back and look over these races, and that's going to be a lot of fun because we always do that. We have to figure out, what did we just see? It's kind of a blur when you're working. You go back, what did we just see? I'm actually anticipating this. It's going to be a lot of fun because we saw some very special races over the last 48 hours.
I agree.
Go back to Cody's Wish. I think that was the
Christina,
highlight
you
for
didn't
both of us. We're both stealing each other's highlight every time it comes up.
August Rodin, I'm going to go back and watch that race again. I mean, that up the rail performance. Innsbruck coming wide on the outside. I also think that it's really important to highlight some of the horses who ran second.
Championship Saturday with the defending champion squarely in the winner's circle once again. Elite Power for Juddmonte Farm. Bill Mott and Irad Ortiz for the trophy presentation. For the Qatar Racing Breeders' Cup Sprint, we have the Qatar chairman, Sheikh Fahad.
Well done, well done. That's fantastic. To win this race 2 years in a row is an unbelievable performance. Well done. I mean, great race, and unfortunately we finished third, but...
I'm sorry, I wasn't going to bring it up. Did they make you still hand out the trophy? That doesn't seem very nice.
Well, got to do what you got to do.
Garrett, it was not too long ago that we were down here celebrating what Idiomatic did in the distaff, and now another win for Juddmonte, this one in the sprint with Elite Power. Just tell me what you were thinking as he was making his bold move around the turn.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, maybe I was a little bit nervous about the pace setup and the California speed, but I saw Irad's rear end pretty high in the air coming around the bend, and I have to say he never gave us a moment. It was a very dominant performance, I thought, today, and showed the champion that he is.
And he is now retired. He goes out a winner, exactly what you would want to see. What do you think that he will bring to his sons and daughters on the and bring to your entire stallion band from what we've witnessed on the racetrack?
Well, he's a curlin out of a mare that was second in the Kentucky Oaks. He has a classic pedigree. He's got classic looks. He's got unbelievable speed. He's got unbelievable looks. So, you know, I mean, I think he's going to be a magnificent stallion prospect, and we can't wait for the phone to start ringing.
And I'm sure they are. Is your phone ringing? I know it was earlier.
Well, it will be.
In terms of this entire weekend as a whole, to go home with 2 championship trophies, just put that into words, what it means to the entire team.
Well, you know, these are the goals that operations like us, like Godolphin, like the Coolmores, all the big operations have the goals to come here. And some years we walk away very disappointed, but so it's huge when we do pull it off, and it just keeps everyone motivated.
A big congratulations to you. Congratulations to Irad Ortiz. We'll know he has a lot of horse if we see that body language. And one word from you to describe your exceptional weekend, Bill Mott, with 3 victories?
It doesn't get much better than this.
That it doesn't. And that is a wrap on the Breeders' Cup races. It was the Qatar Racing Sprint defending champion, Elite Power. Surely elite today, Ahmed.
And his trainer, year in and year out, one of the most elite in this sport. We were talking about it earlier in the day. He sets, in an interview a couple years ago, I heard him say he always sets one of his goals every year is to be in the top 10 in earnings in the country. And when you go back and you look at Bill Mott's stats, he never drops out of the top 10. It's unbelievable. Whether he has the elite powers in his barn or he doesn't, he is just truly a tremendous horseman. I do think he gets some attention, but perhaps not as just due for just how impeccably good he is.
And he always wins a race on his birthday.
Really?
Yes.
Saratoga in the summer.
Good to know. I'm going to have to take that angle with me. We've got one more race to go. We're a quarter hour away from the nightcap. We will be back with that in just a moment.
Trade Storm to win the Rico Woodbine Mile.
She's going to do it. Simple Verse has won the Ledger. Snakeneck Spear and Sheen Murphy get through and have won.
He's getting